Let's go to Annabelle Denham. Lovely to have her on. Deputy commentator, editor, I can't speak, for The Telegraph. Annabelle, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
Thank you for joining us on our first Drive Time show. It's a bit more of a healthy time of day to be up and about, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, that's right. It's a good slot. 6:25.
Yes, well, you're very lucky, but can I just say, my God, we tune into Mike this morning. It's just been one of those days where there's so much going on. We'd love your opinion. Loads of people are sharing their opinions. Let's start with Humza Yousaf. Let me ask you that question. Who's worse, in your opinion, legacy-wise, Humza Yousaf or Liz Truss?
Well, my personal view is probably, on the balance of things, Humza useless. I think that he was so fixated on progressive woke causes at all costs that he seemed to neglect what might have been beneficial for the people of Scotland. Whereas Liz Truss, her ideas, in my view at least, were the right ones, that we need to get on a path to lower taxes, to deregulating. But it was her execution that was so poor, her lack of communication. Obviously, there was the problem that she triggered the LDI crisis, and there was the problem that she introduced the energy price guarantee, which was a massive expansion of the state, of the welfare state, offering this handout to people at huge cost to the exchequer without means testing it. So there were certainly problems there, but nonetheless, she didn't give us a hate crime act. The police's speech really clamps down on freedom of expression. She wasn't trying to bring in policies that would see people over the age of 16 change gender almost overnight on a whim. She wasn't trying to pursue net zero even more quickly, in fact, than the Westminster government was trying to, which would be very damaging to the economy. So no, I think, on balance, Humza Yousaf was worse than Liz Truss.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah, we've been saying all afternoon, lots of callers saying, he was the heir apparent to Nicola Sturgeon. The speed with which she and her husband went from the two most powerful people in Scotland to, frankly, one's been charged, the other one's not to be seen again. It's frightening, but I'd really like this. The Telegraph's such a good paper for these sorts of opinions. I was saying to Alex Salmon, who was on the show earlier, I'd feel really cheated, Annabelle, if I'd joined the Scottish National Party and paid whatever it is, £5 or something. They did that, and thousands joined because they believed in independence. They wanted to break away from the union. The SNP, you made the point earlier, standards of public services in Scotland are no better. In fact, some would say worse than the United Kingdom. They failed to get independence. They failed to improve the social life and the social well-being of so many people in Scotland. And it's astonishing to see that go so quickly, and rather begs that they failed spectacularly and let a lot of people down. There'll be a lot of resentment, I would have thought.
I think that's absolutely correct. Yes, but the people of Scotland ultimately deserve better than what the SNP them over their time, really dominating Scottish politics. We've got NHS waiting lists that are higher north of the border than they are here, in England. We've got drug-related deaths which have gone up. Of course, the impact of the SNP on education has been pretty shameful, whereas actually the Tories have a very positive story to tell when it comes to education, thanks in large part to the hard work of Nick Gibb. But also the fact that the Scottish National Party was all about independence, and it seemed to really abandon its central cause in favour of, as we talked about, those woke progressive policies. And I suspect that a lot of people felt let down in that regard as well. It seems that independence is becoming an ever more distant prospect. So if you are going to the ballot box, why would you vote for the SNP when all they've really offered is declining living standards, declining...
And I think that, you have to be very careful when you do a show on television already, but for me, and I don't care what anybody says, that Isla Bryson thing, and I was doing breakfast at the time, that man, right, who raped two women, can we just say, raped two women, and then thought I'd rather go to a softer, cushier jail, so put a wig on. And I'm not disrespecting people who want to go through transition. In fact, I respect that enormously. But put a wig on, right, so he would go to a female jail. On television going, the man raped two women. I can't believe that somebody, the First Minister of Scotland, would would purport to think that that's a good thing. And hate crimes, you can't say things. And forgetting, as you quite rightly say, about the very issues that affected Scottish people so much every day. Can I just bring it on to one other thing, because you're brilliant on this, and I know this. The British-Irish tension about this migration situation. Apparently, Richie is saying today, Rwanda's working. They're going to Northern Ireland, quick ferry. They're getting into the Republic of Ireland. Now the Republic of Ireland is saying, we're in the EU. We don't want these people. And so Richie Sunak, finally Annabel Dunham is going, don't you? Well, I'll tell you what, we want to send some back to France. Why has it taken him so long to grow a pair?
I think we should just welcome the fact that he has, to quote you back, Jeremy, grown a pair. I was highly sceptical about the Miranda scheme. I still am not convinced that it's going to act any kind of deterrent, but certainly the Irish government seems to have its concerns. Their approach is riddled, of course, with inconsistencies. One might almost say it borders on hypocrisy. The idea that it did declare the UK unsafe because of Rwanda and now seems quite happy to send asylum seekers back over here, that it would have presumably supported France in its assistance, that it wouldn't take asylum seekers back from the UK. So I think what it really speaks to is the fact that illegal migration is a problem that's facing many European countries, and political leaders, particularly those on the left, have been all too willing to bury their heads in the sand when it comes to the very real consequences of illegal and indeed very high levels of legal migration on the lives of people who are already living in that country in terms of access to public services, in terms of the concerns that they might have over integration, and they failed to address it, instead wanting to burnish their own sort of lefty liberal credentials. And it's all coming to a head now. And in fact, it's coming to a head much more quickly than I thought it would.
Do you believe that immigration, the problems will be dealt with? I mean, listen, we're told that there will be an incoming Labour government, just very quickly. But to me, I mean, I've always believed, whatever the government, we have a processing problem. There's 180, apparently nearly 180,000 people waiting. We've only got 2 or 3 returns agreements. I'd have been more proactive to getting that with countries. But I can't believe that the United Kingdom in 2024 is incapable of... I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, the Home Office is not fit for purpose. Well, make it fit for purpose. With the United Kingdom, for God's sake. Why can't we sort this out, Annabel? I don't understand. We don't seem to be able to stand up and say, listen, we proved it with Ukraine. You're a refugee escaping a war-torn country. We're very sorry. Come here. And by the way, you are a scoundrel and a waster who's trying to take advantage of a country that's having a hard time. Do one. Why can't we do that?
Well, I think the combination of factors, and I share your frustration, one of which is politicians are often spineless and afraid to tackle these problems head on. They're worried that there will be genuine cases that might slip through the net or be deported to catastrophic effect, and that would be on them. I suspect many don't really consider it to be as big a problem as it patently is. You spoke about us welcoming 200,000 Ukrainian refugees. Of course, that was a very important step that we took and one that I welcome. But I suppose the problem is that if you extrapolate that across the world, people fleeing war-torn countries across the world, then you would have massive numbers of people.
But France isn't a war-torn country, Annabel, is it?
Well, no, that's certainly true. But the counter argument would go that we're an island, you can't get here without going through other countries. Need to consider the pull and push factors, of course. There are people who may leave their country because they're fleeing a war or fleeing persecution. But what's the pull factor? Why is it that people are coming to the UK? Is there a perception that we're more likely to welcome them? Is it, or have approved their asylum application? Is it because we have a shadow economy that it's easier for people to come and function in? Is it because we're not adequately checking up on these people? Is it because, as you mentioned, we have this whopping backlog? People know that if they can get across the channel, then the chances are they will quite easily melt into the population without anyone keeping an eye on them. I think, there are lots of reasons why. And in as much as the Tories are trying to do something about it, let's not forget that you have the Lords, you have the Labour Party, you have the Liberal Democrats, you have the courts in some instances, all trying to block them from making any progress. And it's just an enormous battle that they have on their hands.
Annabel Denham, thank you so much for coming on. I'm just over the moon that you came on. Deputy Comment Editor of The Telegraph, will be a regular on Drive Time.